Did I not already exempt you from paying your respects? Since you are feeling unwell, you should be resting more. Many, thanks for the Empress's concern. Your servant is fine. Seeing the Empress, your servant feels much better already. Yinglo, you shall take that century-old ginseng from my storehouse and send it to Wenrong to help nourish her health. It remained the same as always. However, Consort Shen arrived a bit late today. This was to be expected. Everyone knows the Emperor visited Yichun Palace last night. As her gaze fell upon Consort Shu, noble consort, Shen spoke with a smile. It's been a while since I've seen Princess Anne. My birthday is in a few days. Consort Shu, do remember to bring Princess Anne to my Yichun Palace to help liven things up. Consort Shu was taken by surprise. She hadn't expected noble Consort Shen to address her so suddenly, let alone mention Princess Anne. She froze for a moment, yet a sense of worriness stirred within her. Consort Shu looked over toward me. Seeing my pale complexion at that moment, it was clear I wasn't feeling well. In truth, the moment I had left yesterday, she had regretted it. The hour is late. You may all go. Lady Su Wanrong is unwell, so she should go back and get plenty of rest. Watching the higher-ranking concubines depart in their palanquins, I leaned on Ziyuan's arm, making my way back to Taran residence, step by step. My lady, are you all right? Observing that my expression was growing increasingly haggard, Ziyuan asked, filled with concern. I gave a bitter smile and shook my head. I felt so weak now that I had no desire to speak. Consort Shu's palanquin followed behind noble Consort Shen's. At the mention of Princess Anne and what noble Consort Shen had said, Consort Shu felt it necessary to ask her about it properly. Noble Consort Shen sat in her palanquin and signaled for her attendants to stop, smiling as she looked at the approaching consort. Shu, Sister Shu, is there something you need from me? Not exactly. But ever since I had Princess Anne, most of my time has been dedicated to her. Come to think of it, it's been ages since I've had a proper chat with you, noble consort. She began by bringing up the princess, seemingly intent on showing off her child, although a smile remained on her face. Noble Consort Shen was deeply displeased deep down. Indeed, it has been a long time since I last spoke with Consort Shu. Everyone says Consort Shu is brainless, and it seems they truly aren't wrong. But even if she has a princess now, so what? Given her current condition, sooner or later, Princess Anne will be sent away to be raised by someone else. Thinking her attempt to get close had worked, Consort Shu smiled and began. Since the weather is so lovely today, I wonder if you would do me the honor of strolling through the garden with me, elder sister. Upon arriving at the imperial garden, the two descended from their palanquins. Noble consort, Shen maintained her smile, but her eyes were ice cold. She only hoped Consort Shu would state her purpose quickly. Elder sister, there is something I am not sure if I should ask. Noble Consort Shen replied with a smile. Younger sister Shu, if you have something to say, just say it. We are like sisters. There is nothing you cannot ask me. With that demeanor of hers, it seemed as though she really was on good terms with Consort Shu. During this morning's greeting to the Empress, I felt that there was more to your words, elder sister. I wonder if you heard something. Consort Shu knew the Emperor had visited Yichun Palace last night. Consort Shu knew it, and had even cursed noble Consort Shen in her palace at the time. But of such matters, she certainly couldn't let noble Consort Shen find out. You are overthinking it, younger sister Shu. I have heard nothing at all. Younger sister Shu, look at how beautifully the flowers are blooming over there. Even someone as dim-witted as Consort Shu could tell that this was a blatant change of subject, could clearly hear that. She became even more convinced that noble Consort Shen definitely knew something, but was withholding it from her. Consort Shu began to plead. My dear sister, in this inner palace, the two of us have the closest relationship. Please, just tell me. I promise I won't tell anyone else. Noble Consort Shen sneered inwardly, but she feigned a troubled expression on her face. The more the noble consort acted this way, the more anxious Consort Shu became. Finally, after her repeated entreaties, Consort Shen finally spoke. I heard that you called noble Lady Su to Jiaochun Palace yesterday. Consort Shu, you don't know, sister. On my way back to Jiaochun Palace yesterday, I happened to run into noble Lady Su. She was just returning from Ningxiang Pavilion. Who doesn't know that ever since Honorable Lady Qi became pregnant, His Majesty has been visiting Ningxiang Pavilion frequently. His Majesty hasn't entered the harem for so long, and that noble Lady Su only gained favor 3 years after entering the palace. Who knows what kind of seductive scheme she is brewing in her heart? I was just angry for a moment, so I called her to Jiaochun Palace. Who would have thought she would be disrespectful to me and the princess at Jiaochun Palace? Consort Shu did not dare mention the princess hurting anyone, choosing instead to gloss over the truth, and told of how noble Lady Su's palace maid was struck. Although Consort Shen knew everything, she feigned total ignorance. And after listening to Consort Shu finish her story, she spoke up once more. Even if that is the case, don't forget that noble Lady Su is currently in favor. His Majesty just saw her yesterday, and he might well summon her for a night visit any day now. If she complains to him first, Consort Shen left the rest unsaid. She believed that even if Consort Shu were dim quick-witted. She would still understand what was being implied. Thank you for the warning, sister. The princess is unwell, so I shall take my leave now. Mulling over Consort, Shen's words. Consort Shu felt she had to return and think it through. Look at Consort Shu, rushing onto her sedan chair, heading back toward Zhaochun Palace. My lady, do you think? Consort Shu will take the bait, whether she takes it or not. Just wait and see. There will be a good show to watch. It is getting hot out. Let us head back as well. As for the events in the Imperial Garden, apart from Consort Shen and Consort Shu, no one else knew. Even if someone had seen them, they would only assume the two concubines were strolling through the garden together. As for knowing what they said, that is absolutely impossible. Consort Shu returned to her quarters. The more she thought about what noble Consort Shen had said, the more she felt it made sense. She could not give Su Wanrong a chance to complain to the Emperor. Li Yi, sitting on the chaise longue. Consort Shu called for her personal maid. Li Yi walked in from outside the hall. My lady, I am here. Do you have any instructions for me? Do we have any of our people inside Taran residence? In reply to your ladyship, we have managed to place someone there. Upon hearing her mistress ask, Li Yi nodded. In the inner court, whenever a consort gains favor, people are inevitably planted in their residence. Even for noble Consort Shen, who is favored above all, find a way to contact that servant. Tell them to use poison to make Su Wanrong mute. My lady, if we poison a consort of the Emperor, what if we are discovered? I know. Make sure you do it discreetly. Once it is done, you will. What if they trace it back to you? My lady, is it truly worth taking this risk? Su Wanrong is currently in favor. If something truly goes wrong, the Emperor will surely launch an investigation. Even if we eliminate that servant after the deed is done, we cannot guarantee that before the act. That servant won't be caught by someone else. Then what should we do? I absolutely cannot keep that Su Wanrong around. If she complains to the Emperor, saying that Princess An harmed her, then Princess An will certainly be taken away. Just the thought of my daughter being taken away and no longer being able to raise her by my side is something Consort Shu cannot endure. My lady, perhaps we should try another way. Then she leaned into Consort Shu's ear and whispered the plan she had come up with to Consort Shu. Very well, proceed as you said. Once the deed is done, I will reward you handsomely. My lady, can you still walk? Because I am only a 6th rank Imperial concubine, I am not entitled to travel by sedan chair. Yet, I happen to be injured, and I didn't sleep well last night, so my energy is fading more and more. Seeing my complexion grow increasingly pale, Ziyuan spoke up with a look of concern. I looked up, scanning the surroundings of the path, and finally reached out my hand, pointing toward the small pavilion in the woods ahead. Ziyuan understood my meaning and supported me as we walked toward the pavilion. She originally wanted to carry me on her back, but I would not allow it, so we had no choice but to inch along slowly. Reaching the small pavilion, she took out a handkerchief and placed it on the stone bench. Then Ziyuan helped me sit down. Ziyuan stood to the side, periodically using a cloth to wipe the beads of sweat from my face. Seeing her mistress like this, she felt a pang of heartache. Ziyuan had been assigned to Toran House the moment she entered the palace, but she could tell that the mistress she served was a kind one. More than once, she had hoped for a chance to serve by her mistress's side. Now that she finally had the opportunity, she desperately wanted to serve her well, yet she felt helpless to do anything. She couldn't help but feel dejected. Mistress, please let this servant carry you back in a moment. Seeing you like this now, it breaks my heart. After resting for a good while, I finally felt as though I had regained some strength. Hearing Ziyuan say this, I looked up at her. Ziyuan was quite young, and her delicate, fair face was filled with earnestness. It is all right. I can still manage to walk for now. Seeing my persistence, Ziyuan felt somewhat helpless, but she had no choice but to obey. The mistress and maid rested in the small pavilion, unaware that someone not far away had been watching them for quite some time. Your Majesty, as this servant was returning from the path just now, I saw Lady Wanrong. Su Wanrong? What is she doing? Emperor Jing did not look up, still focused on reviewing the memorials. But in the Emperor's tone, head eunuch Kang detected a hint of concern. Answering, Your Majesty, Su Wanrong seems to be unwell and unable to walk further, so she is resting in the small pavilion. Emperor Jing asked further. Head eunuch Kang knew he had made the right choice. He described Su Wanrong's situation to Emperor Jing in detail. Then, he saw Emperor Jing look up at him. Seeing the Emperor like this, head eunuch Kang quickly lowered his head. He dared not meet the Emperor's gaze, let alone try to guess what the Emperor was thinking. After a moment of silence, take me to see her. After resting for a while, I finally felt much better. I estimated that, if we headed back now, it would take about 15 minutes. To get back to Toran residence, Ziyuan stood beside me, and seeing me look toward the path home, she asked, My lady, are we heading back? Yes. Let's go. I nodded and stood up, while holding onto Ziyuan's hand. The mistress and servant slowly started moving forward. While resting, I felt alright, but once I actually started walking, I realized how weak I truly was. We hadn't gone very far when my legs began to feel weak again. After taking a few more steps, I suddenly heard footsteps behind me. I instinctively turned my head, but before I could clearly see who it was, I felt my body suddenly suspended in midair, scooped up into someone's arms. The person who had picked me up was none other than Emperor Jing, who had followed head eunuch Kang here. He strode forward and swept me up in his arms. Just look at this pale complexion. Emperor Jing couldn't help but frown. Head eunuch Kang, go fetch an imperial physician. I rested in Emperor Jing's arms, my face full of astonishment. I never expected that Emperor Jing would suddenly appear on this path, let alone carry me like this. Perhaps because my voice sounded far too weak. Emperor Jing's brow furrowed even deeper. Don't speak for now, just rest for a while. As Emperor Jing said this, I had no choice but to keep my mouth shut. If not for my shock, I really wouldn't have wanted to speak anyway. That feeling of exhaustion and weakness was truly unbearable. Xian quickly rose and held back Zisu, who wanted to follow. As Ziyuan walked, she briefly explained what happened. Zisu nodded and was instructed to go prepare some hot water. Emperor Jing sat by the bedside, scanning me with his eyes a few times before he finally asked, Su Wanrong, where are you injured? Hearing Emperor Jing's question, I was even more taken aback. I understood that since he asked like this, he surely knew about my injuries. How did you get injured so severely? Seeing the wound on my arm, Emperor Jing immediately knit his brows, thinking of what Kang Ninghai said yesterday. Emperor Jing couldn't help but narrow his eyes. The Emperor's Majesty did not frighten me. Looking at Emperor Jing's face, I felt an indescribable emotion instead. After resting for a while, I smiled and spoke, trying to soothe Emperor Jing's mood. Your Majesty, please calm your anger. It is nothing. It has already been treated with medicine. It will be better in a few days. Emperor Jing was still clearly displeased. When the imperial physician arrives, have him take a proper look. Your Majesty, I cannot let the imperial physician examine me. My injury is on my arm. How could I let a physician see it? The reason I refused to let the physician examine the wound yesterday was because it was on my arm. As a concubine to the emperor, I could not let any man other than him see my body. After I finished speaking, Emperor Jing asked, so that is why you wouldn't let the physician see your wound yesterday, and only kept the medication? I hesitated for a moment, then gave a nod. Although I truly had no interest in competing for his favor, I still understood certain rules and cared for them deeply. Seeing me nod, Emperor Jing suddenly felt a part of his heart soften instantly. He reached out and took my hand. Even now, you are still concerned with propriety. What if it had gotten worse? What would you have done then? Please do not worry, Your Majesty. I will be careful. I looked down at the hand of the Emperor that was holding mine and couldn't help but think back on all my thoughts from yesterday. Seeing me like this, Emperor Jing paused and then asked again, is there nothing you wish to tell me? Hearing his words, my eyes flickered and I raised my head with a smile, questioning the monarch before me. How did you happen to be on that path, Your Majesty? Head eunuch Kang saw you on the path, and then he reported it to me. I see. If there is a chance, I must thank head eunuch Kang. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have been able to be carried back by Your Majesty. See that you remember that. You needn't worry about that. I shall reward him for it. Before long, Kang Haining arrived at the Peach Blossom residence with the imperial physician. Because the injury was on my arm, a screen was specially placed in the room. The medical attendant described my injury, and the imperial physician made his diagnosis accordingly. Once they had finished examining the wound together, how is Su Wanrong's injury? Answering, Your Majesty, Su Wanrong's arm wound was never light to begin with, and since it wasn't treated promptly, it has now become somewhat inflamed. Fortunately, Su Wanrong has not developed a fever. I will now treat the wound properly for Su Wanrong to avoid leaving any scars. However, it will be a bit painful for her. Your servant shall ensure no scars remain on Su Wanrong's arm, and I will also prepare medicine to help nourish her body. Go ahead and treat her wound. The medical attendant brought the medicine box to me and the Emperor. She spoke respectfully. Lady Su, I shall treat you now. It is fine. Proceed. The wound might be quite painful. Seeing how nervous the met to Lady Su in a while. My lady, are you all right? Everything that happened during the morning greeting, she had seen it all. I am fine. Let's head back quickly. I am feeling a bit hungry. Hearing me say this, Zitin gave a soft acknowledgement and supported me as we took the path back to Tauron residence. I wondered who it was. Isn't this Lady Su? In such a rush, where are you headed? I turned to look at the path to my left. Concubine Ru sat in her palanquin, looking at me with a smile. Greetings, Concubine Ro. I didn't expect to run into you here, Concubine Ro. I had a distinct feeling that Concubine Ru had been waiting here for me on purpose. She did not tell me to rise. Concubine Ru sat in her palanquin, looking down at me from above. During the morning greeting earlier, she had already looked me over. There was nothing particularly outstanding about me. I had been in the palace for 3 years without gaining favor, but suddenly caught the Emperor's eye. Who knows what vixenish tricks she used? As Concubine Ru did not speak, I could only remain in a half squat. After only a short while, my legs are getting a bit sore. I hear that Lady Su first caught the Emperor's eye in the Imperial Garden. Although the flowers here aren't as numerous as those in the garden, the scenery is still quite lovely. Why don't you stay here for a while and enjoy the view, Lady Su? But don't stay too long. Half an hour should be enough. Concubine Ru left. I remained crouched where I was. Because Concubine Ru had given the order, I had to stay here crouching for half an hour. Zitan never imagined that her mistress, who had done absolutely nothing wrong, would be punished by Concubine Ru. It is just a shame you have to crouch here with me. Otherwise, I would have let you go back to Toron residence to prepare something for me to eat, so I wouldn't have to wait when I get back. My lady, I heard Lady Su was punished by Concubine Ru in Yichun Palace, Hong Shu said with a smile, reporting to Consort Shen Lanju, who was sitting on the chaise longue. Punished? How was she punished? Consort Shen raised an eyebrow slightly, a smile appearing on her face. This servant heard that when Lady Su was returning to Toron residence along the path, she happened to run into Concubine Ru. Concubine Ru punished her by making her look at the scenery on the path for half an hour. Concubine Ru is the most vindictive person. A glimmer of mockery flashed in Consort Shen's eyes. She must have been waiting there specifically for her. That Concubine Ru is such a fool. The Emperor just stayed at Toron residence yesterday, and today she punishes Lady Su. Isn't that obviously showing her dissatisfaction with the Emperor? Oh, by the way, I heard the Empress sent incense to Toron residence. We shouldn't show up empty-handed either. After all, yesterday was a big day for Lady Su to have earned his favor. Go check the storeroom and see if there is any fabric with an outdated pattern, but with a nice color. Send it to Toron residence. After finishing talking about Concubine Ru, Consort Shen suddenly thought of something and gave instructions to Hong Shu. Hong Shu smiled and acknowledged the order, then withdrew. The half hour finally dragged to an end, supported by Zitan. I struggled to stand up straight. My lady, are you all right? Seeing the fine beads of sweat on Su Qingyan's forehead, Zitan quickly took out a handkerchief and wiped the sweat from her mistress's face. I'm fine. My legs just feel weak and numb. When we get back, have Zisu massage them for me. Are you all right? I'm fine, my lady. My lady, should I carry you back? No need. You've been squatting for quite a while too. Leaning on Zitan's arm, the two of us slowly made our way back to Toron residence. After the morning court session, Emperor Jing was reviewing memorials in the imperial study. Kang Ninghai was serving him nearby, occasionally replenishing his tea. A young eunuch entered from outside and stood at the doorway of the imperial study. Eunuch Kang glanced at Emperor Jing, and seeing him focused on his documents, he walked softly to the doorway of the study. Kang Ninghai, take that pair of jade ruyi from my treasury and have them sent to fragrant consort Su. Emperor Jing's voice rang out. Eunuch Kang quickly acknowledged the order and was about to go fetch the ruyi when he heard the Emperor's voice again. Did fragrant consort Su's morning greeting go well? Was it smooth? The Emperor's question caught Eunuch Kang by surprise. You see, the Emperor had never asked about such matters before. Today was certainly an exception. Replying to your majesty, the greetings went smoothly enough. However, I heard that on her way back, fragrant consort Su was punished by consort Ru. It is said that she was forced to stand on the path and admire the scenery for half an hour. Anything he wanted to know, he would inevitably learn. The concubines in the inner palace thought the Emperor ignored the trivial affairs of the harem. Little did they know that nothing escaped the Emperor's eyes. I see. Go ahead and deliver the jade ruyi to Lady Su. My lady, why have you only just returned? My lady's breakfast. Did you manage to get it? No explanation. Zitan helped me toward the room. While asking Zisu this question, Zitan hurriedly opened the food box on the table and set the food out on the table. Without even minding that the food had gone a bit cold, I picked up a spoon and ate a few mouthfuls of the shredded meat porridge in front of me. My lady, the Empress and noble consort Shen both sent gifts earlier. Would you like to take a look now, or wait until you've finished eating? Hearing that the Empress and noble consort Shen had sent gifts, I couldn't help but feel surprised. What exactly did they send? As I ate, I looked toward Zisu. This incense was sent by the Empress. They say it is a new variety of fragrance. I secretly took a sniff, and it does smell quite pleasant. As for this fabric, it was sent by noble consort Shen, but this servant feels it isn't suitable for you. While the color is decent, the pattern is far too old-fashioned. Zisu, you should say such things less often from now on. Walls have ears. Be careful not to let anyone hear you. But I knew clearly in my heart that noble consort Shen sent me the fabric, ostensibly as a reward, but in reality, to remind me of my place. For someone who has been in the palace for 3 years, even if I am now a newcomer in the Emperor's favor, I still cannot rise to any significant standing. Just like this bolt of fabric, the pattern is dated. No matter how good the color is, it will eventually be cast aside on a high shelf, unused and forgotten. My lady, the Emperor stayed the night. Yet he did not share your bed. Yet now you have been promoted. This servant is rather worried. Zeton was more thoughtful than Zisu. Don't worry, as long as no one says anything, no one will ever know. They will simply assume, because I was favored. That is why I was promoted, although I sighed in my heart. I did not show the slightest hint of it on my face. It would surely not be long now. Before our Toran residence became quite lively, just as I had anticipated, within less than an hour, news of my promotion had spread throughout the entire inner palace. Looking at the table full of gifts, I instructed Zeton and Zisu to inventory everything and then store them in the warehouse. It was already time for lunch. Before Zisu could even go to the kitchen to fetch it, the servants from the kitchen brought the meal over themselves. What a bunch of spineless servants. Before, they looked down their noses at us and cut corners on the mistress's meals. Now that they see the mistress is favored, they only think to come and curry favor. Zisu couldn't help but mutter, regardless, I am now a lady of the 6th rank. When I was a mere concubine of the 9th rank, the number of people serving me was cut in half. Now that I have been promoted, the palace administration must send more staff over. Sure enough, before I had even finished my lunch, the head eunuch of the palace administration, Huang An, brought a group of palace maids and eunuchs to Toran residence. My gaze swept over the kneeling maids and eunuchs for a long moment before I spoke with a smile. I have troubled you, head eunuch Huang. It is just that there are so many of them. I find it dizzying to choose. How about this? Head eunuch Huang knows them better than I do, so please help me pick a few who are suitable. Would you? Huang An was caught in a dilemma. If he picked people from other palaces, he would be held accountable if trouble arose later. If they were all newcomers, the mistresses of other palaces would give him a hard time. No matter what, he would be stuck in the middle. Seeing Huang, and motionless for a long time, a glint of light flashed in my eyes, and I spoke up again with a smile. Does head eunuch Huang find my request difficult? After quite a long while, Huang An finally spoke, selecting 3 palace maids and 2 young eunuchs for me. In that case, the head maid of Toran residence shall be my personal maid, Zeton. As for the head eunuch, I think Xiaofuzi, who has been serving me, is quite suitable. As you wish, Mistress Su, as long as you are pleased. This servant is pleased. After expressing his gratitude and offering a few auspicious words, Huang An tucked away the money pouch and left with his people. At this moment, Emperor Jing was still handling official business. He dared not make a sound to disturb him, so he had to look toward Kang Ninghai, who was beside the Emperor. Your Majesty, the men from the Imperial Household Department are here. Will you be selecting a consort for tonight? Sweeping his gaze over the nameplates of the concubines, Emperor Jing reached out, flipped over one made of rosewood, and turned it face down. Then he continued to lower his head to handle his work, since the Emperor had already chosen. The eunuch from the Imperial Household Department prepared to retreat, to notify the chosen concubine, to prepare for the night. From now on, use the plum blossom design for Su Wanning's nameplate. He had only stepped back twice when he heard Emperor Jing's voice ring out. Kang Ninghai, standing by the Emperor's side, heard every word the Emperor said. This detail on the nameplate is a privilege reserved only for concubines of the 3rd rank or higher, who have the right to choose their own preferred design. Mistress Su, the Emperor has chosen you tonight. Please, hurry and prepare. The carriage is already waiting outside Toran residence. Seeing the look of joy on the young eunuch's face, I was momentarily stunned. I had been chosen. Didn't the Emperor stay at Toran residence just last night? Sighing inwardly, I turned to give instructions to Zaitan. Once dressed, I sat before the vanity mirror, looking at the face powder Zisu was holding. I couldn't help but frown. Just apply some scented water, that is all. Applying scented powder this late at night. Won't I look as pale as a ghost? I didn't use any other rouge at all. I simply combed my hair into a modest bun. Zaitan and the others thought I was just trying to stand out. In truth, I was doing this, not to catch the Emperor's eye, but because I figured that if I didn't dress up, I surely wouldn't look as beautiful as the concubines who did. Perhaps, in that way, the Emperor would lose interest, and I would be sent back. Then, I could continue living my quiet, peaceful life. Once everything was ready, I sat in the prepared imperial carriage and headed toward Chengguan Palace. Don't let the size of the inner palace fool you. News travels remarkably fast. Soon enough, all the concubines in the palace knew that the Emperor had chosen me. In an instant, the concubines were filled with varying thoughts. Some were envious, some were jealous, and others were disappointed. That little hussy, I don't know what seductive trick she used. The Emperor stayed with her last night, and today he chose her again, and even promoted her rank. If I had known, I should have slapped her twice this morning and seen how she would show her face. In Jinghua Pavilion, Concubine Ru threw a teacup to the floor in a fit of rage. Come to think of it, the Emperor hadn't visited her in over a month. She had been hoping he would summon her, so she could gain a promotion for her birthday. Who would have thought the Emperor wouldn't come to her, but instead favor a Fangyi who hadn't been noticed in 3 years? A young maid stepped forward to console her, but concubine Ru, still fuming, lifted her hand and struck her across the face. Shengguan Palace is not far from the Empress's Kaifeng Palace, so before long, I arrived at Qifeng Palace with Zeton to pay my respects to the Empress. May the Empress be blessed with eternal peace. Although my body was still aching, but I still came as usual, offering my respectful greetings to the Empress. Rise, Wan, wrong. The Emperor just sent word to me earlier that you were excused from your morning greetings today. I didn't expect you to come anyway. The Empress felt conflicted inside, not expecting to see me arrive for greetings. Paying respects to the Empress is my duty as a consort. That the Emperor and the Empress care for me is my great fortune. I would never dare to let the kindness of the Emperor and Empress make me forget my own duty. I spoke in a respectful tone. I secretly wiped a bead of sweat from my brow. Consort Suwan, wrong is truly blessed. She went 3 years without ever being summoned. Yet now, she has not only been promoted, but spent the night at the Shengguan Palace. Such a special honor truly makes the rest of us envious. The Emperor has few heirs, only 1 son and 2 daughters to date. The eldest prince is frail, and his birth mother passed away early, so he was raised by the Empress Dowager. The eldest princess is the daughter of Consort Shu, and is currently being raised by her side. The second princess's mother held a lowly rank, so she was placed in the care of Imperial Concubine Gui. As for Imperial Concubine Gui, I don't have much of an impression of her. On ordinary days, one simply never sees her. It is only during major festivals that she makes an appearance. In the 3 years I've been in the palace, I have only seen Imperial Concubine Gui a few times. Consort Shu stood up. I bowed to Consort Shu. Before she could say anything, from a short distance in front of me, another voice rang out. Sister Shu may not be aware, but the Emperor truly dotes on Su Wanrong. Not only did he keep her at Chengguan Palace last night, but he even excused her from morning greetings today. The one speaking was Lady J. Yu Kao, who, like concubine Ru, she also entered the palace at the same time as I did. She currently resides in the Yingyang Pavilion with noble Lady Zhao. After hearing noble Lady Cao finish speaking, I shifted my gaze toward her. I first curtsied to noble Lady Cao, and only then responded with a smile. Regarding the Emperor excusing me from paying my respects, I only found out about it myself when I arrived to greet the Empress. Noble Lady Cao arrived after me. I didn't expect you to be so well informed. As soon as I finished speaking, noble Lady Cao's expression shifted instantly. She certainly hadn't arrived early, which was why she had missed the earlier conversation with the Empress. Her information had indeed not been obtained within the Qifeng Palace. Consort Shu raised an eyebrow, but did not speak again. With events now unfolding beyond expectations, she only needed to watch the show. At this moment, the Empress let her gaze linger on noble Lady Tao for a moment, then glanced over at me, although her face still held its usual gentle smile. A flash of sharpness crossed her eyes. Noble consort Shen had watched a fine performance, and seeing the hall grow quiet now, she spoke up with a smile. Come to think of it, I haven't seen noble Lady Qi come to pay her respects lately. Is she feeling unwell? Noble Lady Qi resided in the Ningxiang Pavilion and was also a concubine who entered the palace with me. She has now been promoted to noble lady. Noble Lady Qi has been unwell for the past few days, so I excused her from paying her respects. Since noble consort Shen has brought it up, I really should send someone to check on her condition. Yingluo, go fetch an imperial physician to the Ningxiang Pavilion to see noble Lady Qi. Come to think of it, in another month, it will be noble consort Shen's birthday. I wonder what kind of gift the Emperor will bestow upon you for your birthday this year. That noble consort Shen is the most favored in the palace is a fact known to all the concubines. Back when Emperor Jing was still the third prince, noble consort Shen was already by his side. Whatever gift the Emperor prepares for me, I will be happy with it. When my birthday arrives, I will host a few tables at the Yichun Palace. At that time, I hope the Empress will do me the honor of sharing a few drinks with me. Noble consort Shen looked toward the Empress, a smile playing on her face as she spoke. Watching the back and forth between the Empress and noble consort Shen, it was easy to understand that these two women could never coexist in peace. Empress Xiao was in poor health and had no heirs of her own. If not for the immense power of her family clan at court, she would likely have been usurped by noble consort Shen long ago. It wasn't until Yingluo returned with the imperial physician that she turned her gaze toward them. How is noble Lady Qi's condition? Reporting to your majesty, the Empress, noble Lady Qi is with child. She is already nearly 2 months along. As these words were spoken, the expressions of the concubines shifted instantly. No one noticed that for a fleeting moment, a flash of chill passed through Empress Xiao's eyes. Physician Zhang, are you certain of this? Empress Xiao quickly regained her composure. With a serious look, she said, in reply to the Empress, "It is true. Noble Lady Qi is indeed roughly 2 months pregnant. However, for the sake of caution, Your Majesty may wish to send a few more physicians to confirm the pulse together." Physician Zhang knelt on the floor, speaking in a respectful tone. "I understand. You may withdraw." Noble consort Shen sat in her seat, her expression unchanged from usual. Yet no one knew that her hands were tightly clenched underneath, her fingernails digging deep into her palms. Upon hearing the news of Noble Lady Qi's pregnancy, the Empress simply dismissed the gathering. Among all the concubines, I was likely the only one genuinely happy for her. When I first entered the palace, Noble Lady Qi and I had been close friends. Seeing those of higher rank leave, I thought for a moment and decided to head to the Ningxiang Pavilion as well. "Your Majesty, Noble Lady Qi of Ningxiang Pavilion is with child." "Oh, how far along is she?" Regarding this news, the Emperor did not seem overly overjoyed. However, it was clear that he was in a good mood. "In reply to Your Majesty, it has been nearly 2 months. The Empress has assigned Imperial Physician Feng to oversee the pregnancy." Imperial Physician Feng is a capable man. You are to have the white jade guanyin from my private treasury sent to her. As for the rest of the rewards, go to the palace provisioning office and select them yourself. Regardless of everything else, the child she carries is mine. Within the inner palace, it is easy to conceive, but difficult to carry to term, and even harder to deliver safely. The person in charge must be careful and cautious. Also, send 2 bolts of the newly arrived cloud pattern brocade to Lady Su, and that pair of 8 treasure glazed plum blossom hairpins as well. When she came to serve me last night, I noticed the hairpin she wore was indeed a plum blossom design. Even at a time like this, the Emperor is still thinking of Lady Su. I do not know what kind of fortune she must have accumulated in her past lives to be so constantly on the Emperor's mind. She has even overshadowed the pregnant Noble Lady Qi. With nothing better to do, I took Zaitan to the fragrant pavilion to visit Noble Lady Qi. I feel quite at ease in front of Noble Lady Qi. After all, we have known each other for 3 years, and our relationship has always been excellent. Noble Lady Qi has always taken great care of me. Noble Lady Qi, rest assured, the child will certainly be born healthy and safe. After hearing Noble Lady Qi finish speaking, Su Qingyan said, with a smile, "I hope so." Noble Lady Qi nodded with a smile. She looked at me, hesitated for quite a while, and then spoke again. "Little sister, I have a prescription here. Would you like it?" Whenever Noble Lady Qi spoke with me in the past, she always had the palace attendants withdraw so that we could speak more freely. Therefore, there were only the 2 of us in the room at that moment. "A prescription? What kind of prescription?" I asked, looking thoroughly confused. I looked at Noble Lady Qi, who was asking me, "What if someone finds out about that formula?" "Destroy it immediately. You must never let anyone see it." At the mere thought of the consequences if it were discovered, I stared at Noble Lady Qi and spoke with a nervous look on my face. "I know. I will destroy this formula, but I am also concerned for you. You have been in the palace for 3 years, and it was not easy for you to gain favor. If you could conceive a child, would that not be even better? At least with a child, you won't have to worry about losing favor in the future. I know you are concerned for me, sister, but I do not want a child. You should destroy that formula quickly, sister. Besides, I am now only a Wanrong of the 6th rank. Even if I had a child, I would not be qualified to raise it. Rather than having the child taken away after it is born, it is better not to have one at all." After hearing what Noble Lady Qi said, a smile appeared on my face. "All right, in that case, I will destroy this formula." As she said this, Noble Lady Qi stood up. She walked toward the inner chamber. Not long after, she brought out a handkerchief. She burned the handkerchief right in front of me. The formula was written on that handkerchief. It has now been destroyed. Besides you and me, no one else will ever know about it. Seeing the handkerchief turn to ashes, I felt relieved. I promised Noble Lady Qi I will certainly not let a word of this slip. I left Ningxiang Pavilion. Zitan followed behind me, accompanying me as I slowly returned to Toran residence. But in this world, coincidences are always bound to happen. Just on the way back, I ran into Consort Shu. "What is it, Wanrong Su? Do you not wish to see me?" "You misunderstand, your ladyship. It is my honor to visit Zhaochun Palace." "What would you like to eat, Wanrong Su? I have my own small kitchen." "Thank you, your ladyship. I am not picky." "Mother, I don't want you. Mother has brought you a playmate." "Consort Shu, please hold yourself back." "Princess N, regardless, I am also a consort of the Emperor. If the Emperor were to find out about today's events." "Consort Su, you are incredibly bold. How dare you make Princess N cry?" The moment she saw her daughter crying, anger immediately flared on Consort Shu's face. She walked over to Princess N, intending to scoop the princess into her arms. Consort Shu softly coaxed the weeping Princess N Be a good girl. My hair was suddenly yanked loose. I was thrown onto the floor. The hairpin in my hair was ripped out. My neatly styled bun came undone. I looked completely disheveled, having soothed Princess Anne. Consort Shu looked down at me on the floor. She spoke in a cool, detached tone. Consort Su, you have offended me and made Princess Anne cry. Why not leave your maid behind to serve as a playmate for Princess Anne? Consort Shu. Zitin was brought in from outside the palace with me. I implore you to reconsider, your ladyship. I knew all too well that if Zitin fell into Princess Anne's hands before long, she would surely be tortured to death. As for the matter of offending me, I can overlook it. But you made Princess Anne cry. What are we to do about that? It wasn't that Consort Shu truly had to have Zitin. She simply wanted to see me begging her. Seeing me now, kneeling on the ground, my arm bleeding, and my hair in disarray. A flash of satisfaction crossed her heart. It was I who caused the princess to cry. I beg your ladyship to punish me instead, regardless of anything else. We are all sisters here, serving the emperor together. Your arm is injured, and my heart aches for you. But you did, after all, make the princess cry. I must find a way to vent the princess's frustration. How about this? Let your maid take your punishment instead. Someone, take her away. Give her 30 strikes. Once Consort Shu gave the order, Zitin was immediately dragged away by the attendants. You may rise now, Su Wanrong. Look, your hair is all disheveled. Lu Yi, help Su Wanrong fix her hair again. Then help me escort Su Wanrong out. I stood up, declining Lu Yi's help to tidy my hair. I smoothed my hair back, simply with my own hands. The blood from my arm dripped onto my hand. The scent of blood in the air brought a touch of coldness to my eyes. Once my hair was set, I took the hairpin I had snatched back from Princess Anne and tucked it straight back into my hair. I pulled a handkerchief from my robe and wrapped up my bleeding arm. My face remained expressionless, and I stepped forward to head out of the hall. Lu Yi followed behind me. As I walked out of the hall doors, I saw Zitin, having just taken 30 strikes, lying on a bench. I rushed to Zitin's side and crouched down. My lady, are you all right? I am fine, my lady. Please, do not worry. She spoke in a weak voice. Stop talking. I'm taking you back. I carefully helped Zitin up. After all, it was 30 strikes. Zitin is only a young girl after all, so she found it extremely difficult to walk. I crouched down in front of Zitin and said calmly, at this moment, I stopped caring about the distinctions between status and rank. Naturally, Zitin refused to be carried. She looked at me. Her pale face was full of persistence. With Zitin like this, I had no choice but to bite my lip and ultimately stood up. Supporting Zitin, I walked out of the palace step by step. Once outside the Jiaochun palace, I suddenly stopped in my tracks and looked back toward the palace. A chill flashed through my eyes. But because Zitin was injured, the two of us walked for nearly an hour before finally reaching the entrance of Toran residence. Xiao Fuzi was directing people to tidy up the courtyard. Seeing the two of us at the gate, he hurriedly called out to Zisu and then rushed toward the entrance with the others. My lady, how did you become like this? What happened to Sister Zitin? Hurry! Send someone to fetch the imperial physician. I was too busy to explain. At this point, Zitin was nearly unconscious, her weight resting almost entirely on me. Xiao Fuzi quickly answered and signaled the eunuchs of Toran residence to carry Zitin into the room together in a flurry. The physician arrived shortly after. Since the injury was on my arm, I didn't have the physician look at me. I just asked him for some high-quality medicine for wounds, and then had Xiao Fuzi take him to treat Zitin. I let Zisu help me into the inner chamber. I exposed the wound on my arm. Seeing the mangled flesh on my arm, tears instantly welled up in Zisu's eyes. Quietly, go get some warm water. Clean around the wound first, and then help me apply the medicine. Soon, he returned to the chamber with the water. Then, he applied the medicine and bandaged it. Once the wound was treated, Zisu finally asked me, my lady, how did you get hurt? And what about Zitin? Wasn't she accompanying you to visit Consort Chi? I'm a little tired. I want to sleep for a while. Go and look after Zitin for me. He needs care. Inside the Taifeng Palace, Yingluo reported the news. She had just received to Empress Xiao. Your Majesty, this servant has heard that the maid serving Lady Su was given 30 lashes by Consort Shu. It seems Lady Su was injured as well. Injured? Consort Shu is truly brainless. Taking her anger out on a maid is one thing, but Lady Su is currently in favor. How could she dare to strike her? Hearing that I was injured, Empress Xiao's brows furrowed. Seeing the Empress frown, Yingluo shared everything. She knew with Empress Xiao, it wasn't Consort Shu who injured her, it was Princess Anne. So it was Princess Anne. I certainly didn't expect that. The Empress's brows smoothed out again, and a smile returned to her face. Go to Toran Lodge, use the excuse of delivering fresh tea, and take some healing ointment to Lady Su. Tell her she doesn't need to come for morning greetings for the next few days. She should focus on her recovery. Yingluo responded respectfully, and then withdrew. I wasn't the only one who knew about my injury. Noble Consort Shen of Yichun Palace also quickly learned of the news. Like the Empress, noble Consort Shen also thought Consort Shu was extremely foolish. Although it was Princess and who injured me, Consort Shu is, after all, her biological mother. If the Emperor were to find out, he wouldn't blame Princess Anne, who is still just a child. But Consort Shu would certainly not have an easy time of it. I truly hope, Lady Su makes a scene over this. If that happens, the inner palace will have quite a show to watch. It was already dusk when I woke up. I propped myself up to a sitting position, my forehead covered in fine beads of sweat. "Mistress, you're awake." The maid guarding the outer room heard the sound and hurried in. I looked toward the maid who had spoken. She looked a bit unfamiliar, likely one of the people sent over by Uniquang earlier. "What is your name?" In reply to my mistress, "This servant is Ziyuan, a name given to me by Aunt Zitan. This servant was previously called Xiaokui." Upon hearing my question, Ziyuan quickly replied, seeing her appear a bit nervous. She was clearly a maid who had just entered the palace. "Go and wring out a towel for me. I want to wipe my face. How is Zitan doing?" In reply to my mistress, Aunt Zitan is still sleeping. The imperial physician said she needs to rest well. She reported back everything she knew to me. Zian wrung out a towel and presented it to me with both hands. I took the towel and wiped my face. The wound on my arm hurt a bit, but it was bearable. "Mistress, while you were asleep, Aunt Yinglo from the Tefeng Palace came by. Seeing you were asleep, she did not disturb you, but left 2 boxes of medicated ointment. She also said the Empress wishes for you to rest well, and that there is no need to pay your respects for the next few days." Handing the towel back to Ziyuan, I put on my shoes and got off the bed. Ziyuan hung up the towel. "Mistress, you don't look well. Let this servant come over and support you." I gave a soft reply and allowed Ziyuan to support me. As I walked toward the outer chamber, I was quite worried about Zitan's condition, so I gave Ziyuan a few instructions, having her accompany me to the room where Zitan was staying. After dinner time, the head eunuch of the Imperial Household Department, carrying a tray containing the name tags of the consorts, arrived at the Longqian Palace. "Your Majesty, will you be choosing a consort for the night?" Looking at the tags before him, Emperor Jing reached out and touched a tag made of milky, white jade. In the inner palace, only noble consort Shen of Yichun Palace uses a tag made of milky, white jade. Without a doubt, the Emperor will be visiting consort Shen tonight. The head of the Imperial Household Department withdrew. The Emperor lowered his head, continuing to review the memorials in his hand. Uniquang stood respectfully to the side, awaiting the Emperor's orders at any moment. After a long silence, the Emperor suddenly spoke, asking Kang Ninghai, who stood nearby, "How has Su Wanrong been these past few days?" Answering, "Your Majesty, Mistress Su is doing well. However, today, after Mistress Su left the fragrant pavilion, she ran into Consort Shu. It is said that she was taken by Consort Shu to her own palace." The rest of the details, Uniquang did not say aloud. He didn't know how best to put it. The Emperor looked up at him. "Why did you stop?" "I beg your Majesty's forgiveness." This servant heard that after Su Wanrong went to Consort Shu's palace, when she came out, her personal maid, Zitan, had been given 30 lashes. Su Wanrong also seems to have been injured. She was hurt by Princess Anne. Princess Anne is but a small child. How could she have injured her for no reason? Has Su Wanrong called for an imperial physician? The Emperor frowned, replying, "To your Majesty, one has been called." But the physician could not find any visible wounds on Mistress Su, so he only left some medicine. The maid, however, is quite badly hurt. "Let's go to Yichun Palace." Greeting the Empress Dowager. "May the Empress be blessed with eternal fortune and peace." "Wanrong, hurry and rise. Did I not already exempt you from paying your respects? Since you are feeling unwell, you should be resting more." "Many thanks for the Empress's concern. Your servant is fine." Seeing the Empress, "Your servant feels much better already. Yinglo, you shall take that century-old ginseng from my storehouse and send it to Wanrong to help nourish her health." It remained the same as always. However, Consort Shen arrived a bit late today. This was to be expected. Everyone knows the Emperor visited Yichun Palace last night. As her gaze fell upon Consort Shu, "Noble Consort," Shen spoke with a smile, "it's been a while since I've seen Princess Anne. My birthday is in a few days. Consort Shu, do remember to bring Princess Anne to my Yichun Palace to help liven things up." Consort Shu was taken by surprise. She hadn't expected noble Consort Shen to address her so suddenly, let alone mention Princess Anne. She froze for a moment, yet a sense of worriness stirred within her. Consort Shu looked over toward me. Seeing my pale complexion at that moment, it was clear I wasn't feeling well. In truth, the moment I had left yesterday, she had regretted it. "The hour is late. You may all go. Lady Su Wanrong is unwell, so she should go back and get plenty of rest." Watching the higher-ranking concubines depart in their palanquins, I leaned on Ziyuan's arm, making my way back to Taran residence, step by step. "My lady, are you all right?" Observing that my expression was growing increasingly haggard, Ziyuan asked, filled with concern. I gave a bitter smile and shook my head. I felt so weak now that I had no desire to speak. Consort Shu's palanquin followed behind noble Consort Shen's. At the mention of Princess Anne and what noble Consort Shen had said, Consort Shu felt it necessary to ask her about it properly. Noble Consort Shen sat in her palanquin and signaled for her attendants to stop, smiling as she looked at the approaching consort. "Shu, Sister Shu, is there something you need from me?" "Not exactly. But ever since I had Princess Anne, most of my time has been dedicated to her. Come to think of it, it's been ages since I've had a proper chat with you, noble consort." She began by bringing up the princess. seemingly intent on showing off her child, although a smile remained on her face. Noble Consort Shen was deeply displeased deep down. Indeed. It has been a long time since I last spoke with Consort Shu. Everyone says Consort Shu is brainless, and it seems they truly aren't wrong. But even if she has a princess now, so what? Given her current condition, sooner or later, Princess An will be sent away to be raised by someone else. Thinking her attempt to get close had worked, Consort Shu smiled and began. Since the weather is so lovely today, I wonder if you would do me the honor of strolling through the garden with me, elder sister. Upon arriving at the imperial garden, the two descended from their palanquins. Noble Consort Shen maintained her smile, but her eyes were ice cold. She only hoped Consort Shu would state her purpose quickly. Elder sister, there is something I am not sure if I should ask. Noble Consort Shen replied with a smile. Younger sister Shu, if you have something to say, just say it. We are like sisters. There is nothing you cannot ask me. With that demeanor of hers, it seemed as though she really was on good terms with Consort Shu. During this morning's greeting to the Empress, I felt that there was more to your words, elder sister. I wonder if you heard something. Consort Shu knew the Emperor had visited Yichun Palace last night. Consort Shu knew it, and had even cursed Noble Consort Shen in her palace at the time. But of such matters, she certainly couldn't let Noble Consort Shen find out. You are overthinking it, younger sister Shu. I have heard nothing at all. Younger sister Shu, look at how beautifully the flowers are blooming over there. Even someone as dim-witted as Consort Shu could tell that this was a blatant change of subject, could clearly hear that. She became even more convinced that Noble Consort Shen definitely knew something, but was withholding it from her. Consort Shu began to plead. My dear sister, in this inner palace, the two of us have the closest relationship. Please, just tell me. I promise I won't tell anyone else. Noble Consort Shen sneered inwardly, but she feigned a troubled expression on her face. The more the noble consort acted this way, the more anxious Consort Shu became. Finally, after her repeated entreaties, Consort Shen finally spoke. I heard that you called Noble Lady Su to Jiaochun Palace yesterday. Consort Shu, you don't know, sister. On my way back to Jiaochun Palace yesterday, I happened to run into Noble Lady Su. She was just returning from Ningxiang Pavilion. Who doesn't know that ever since Honorable Lady Qi became pregnant, His Majesty has been visiting Ningxiang Pavilion frequently. His Majesty hasn't entered the harem for so long, and that Noble Lady Su only gained favor 3 years after entering the palace. Who knows what kind of seductive scheme she is brewing in her heart? I was just angry for a moment, so I called her to Jiaochun Palace. Who would have thought she would be disrespectful to me and the princess at Jiaochun Palace? Consort Shu did not dare mention the princess hurting anyone, choosing instead to gloss over the truth, and told of how Noble Lady Su's palace maid was struck. Although Consort Shen knew everything, she feigned total ignorance. And after listening to Consort Shu finish her story, she spoke up once more. Even if that is the case, don't forget that Noble Lady Su is currently in favor. His Majesty just saw her yesterday, and he might well summon her for a night visit any day now. If she complains to him first, Consort Shen left the rest unsaid. She believed that even if Consort Shu were dim-witted, she would still understand what was being implied. Thank you for the warning, sister. The princess is unwell, so I shall take my leave now. Mulling over Consort Shen's words, Consort Shu felt she had to return and think it through. Look at Consort Shu rushing onto her sedan chair, heading back toward Jiaochun Palace. My lady, do you think Consort Shu will take the bait? Whether she takes it or not, just wait and see. There will be a good show to watch. It is getting hot out. Let us head back as well. As for the events in the Imperial Garden, apart from Consort Shen and Consort Shu, no one else knew. Even if someone had seen them, they would only assume the two concubines were strolling through the garden together. As for knowing what they said, that is absolutely impossible. Consort Shu returned to her quarters. The more she thought about what Noble Consort Shen had said, the more she felt it made sense. She could not give Su Wanrong a chance to complain to the Emperor. Li Yi, sitting on the chaise longue. Consort Shu called for her personal maid. Li Yi walked in from outside the hall. My lady, I am here. Do you have any instructions for me? Do we have any of our people inside Taran residence? In reply to your ladyship, we have managed to place someone there. Upon hearing her mistress ask, Li Yi nodded. In the inner court, whenever a consort gains favor, people are inevitably planted in their residence. Even for Noble Consort Shen, who is favored above all, find a way to contact that servant. Tell them to use poison to make Su Wanrong mute. My lady, if we poison a consort of the Emperor, what if we are discovered? I know. Make sure you do it discreetly. Once it is done, you will. What if they trace it back to you? My lady, is it truly worth taking this risk? Su Wanrong is currently in favor. If something truly goes wrong, the Emperor will surely launch an investigation. Even if we eliminate that servant after the deed is done, we cannot guarantee that before the act. That servant won't be caught by someone else. Then what should we do? I absolutely cannot keep that Su Wanrong around. If she complains to the Emperor, saying that Princess An harmed her, then Princess An will certainly be taken away. Just the thought of my daughter being taken away and no longer being able to raise her by my side is something Consort Shu cannot endure. My lady, perhaps we should try another way. Then she leaned into Consort Shu's ear and whispered the plan she had come up with. To Consort Shu. Very well, proceed as you said. Once the deed is done, I will reward you handsomely. My lady, can you still walk? Because I am only a 6th rank imperial concubine, I am not entitled to travel by sedan chair. Yet, I happen to be injured, and I didn't sleep well last night, so my energy is fading more and more. Seeing my complexion grow increasingly pale, Ziyuan spoke up with a look of concern. I looked up, scanning the surroundings of the path, and finally reached out my hand, pointing toward the small pavilion in the woods ahead. Ziyuan understood my meaning and supported me as we walked toward the pavilion. She originally wanted to carry me on her back, but I would not allow it, so we had no choice but to inch along slowly. Reaching the small pavilion, she took out a handkerchief and placed it on the stone bench. Then Ziyuan helped me sit down. Ziyuan stood to the side, periodically using a cloth to wipe the beads of sweat from my face. Seeing her mistress like this, she felt a pang of heartache. Ziyuan had been assigned to Toran House the moment she entered the palace, but she could tell that the mistress she served was a kind one. More than once, she had hoped for a chance to serve by her mistress's side. Now that she finally had the opportunity, she desperately wanted to serve her well, yet she felt helpless to do anything. She couldn't help but feel dejected. Mistress, please let this servant carry you back in a moment. Seeing you like this now, it breaks my heart. After resting for a good while, I finally felt as though I had regained some strength. Hearing Ziyuan say this, I looked up at her. Ziyuan was quite young, and her delicate, fair face was filled with earnestness. It is all right. I can still manage to walk for now. Seeing my persistence, Ziyuan felt somewhat helpless, but she had no choice but to obey. The mistress and maid rested in the small pavilion, unaware that someone not far away had been watching them for quite some time. Your Majesty, as this servant was returning from the path just now, I saw Lady Wanrong. Su Wanrong? What is she doing? Emperor Jing did not look up, still focused on reviewing the memorials, but in the Emperor's tone, Head Eunuch Kang detected a hint of concern. Answering, Your Majesty, Su Wanrong seems to be unwell and unable to walk further, so she is resting in the small pavilion. Emperor Jing asked further. Head Eunuch Kang knew he had made the right choice. He described Su Wanrong's situation to Emperor Jing in detail. Then, he saw Emperor Jing look up at him. Seeing the Emperor like this, Head Eunuch Kang quickly lowered his head. He dared not meet the Emperor's gaze, let alone try to guess what the Emperor was thinking. After a moment of silence, take me to see her. After resting for a while, I finally felt much better. I estimated that, if we headed back now, it would take about 15 minutes. To get back to Toran residence, Ziyuan stood beside me, and seeing me look toward the path home, she asked, My lady, are we heading back? Yes. Let's go. I nodded, and stood up while holding on to Ziyuan's hand. The mistress and servant slowly started moving forward. While resting, I felt all right, but once I actually started walking, I realized how weak I truly was. We hadn't gone very far when my legs began to feel weak again. After taking a few more steps, I suddenly heard footsteps behind me. I instinctively turned my head, but before I could clearly see who it was, I felt my body suddenly suspended in midair, scooped up into someone's arms. The person who had picked me up was none other than Emperor Jing, who had followed Head Eunuch Kang here. He strode forward and swept me up in his arms. Just look at this pale complexion. Emperor Jing couldn't help but frown. Head Eunuch Kang, go fetch an imperial physician. I rested in Emperor Jing's arms, my face full of astonishment. I never expected that Emperor Jing would suddenly appear on this path, let alone carry me like this. Perhaps because my voice sounded far too weak. Emperor Jing's brow furrowed even deeper. Don't speak for now, just rest for a while. As Emperor Jing said this, I had no choice but to keep my mouth shut. If not for my shock, I really wouldn't have wanted to speak anyway. That feeling of exhaustion and weakness was truly unbearable. Ziyuan quickly rose and held back Zisu, who wanted to follow. As Ziyuan walked, she briefly explained what happened. Zisu nodded and was instructed to go prepare some hot water. Emperor Jing sat by the bedside, scanning me with his eyes a few times before he finally asked, Su Wanrong, where are you injured? Hearing Emperor Jing's question, I was even more taken aback. I understood that since he asked like this, he surely knew about my injuries. How did you get injured so severely? Seeing the wound on my arm, Emperor Jing immediately knit his brows, thinking of what Kang Ninghai said yesterday. Emperor Jing couldn't help but narrow his eyes. The Emperor's Majesty did not frighten me. Looking at Emperor Jing's face, I felt an indescribable emotion instead. After resting for a while, I smiled and spoke, trying to soothe Emperor Jing's mood. Your Majesty, please calm your anger. It is nothing. It has already been treated with medicine. It will be better in a few days. Emperor Jing was still clearly displeased. When the imperial physician arrives, have him take a proper look. Your Majesty, I cannot let the imperial physician examine me. My injury is on my arm. How could I let a physician see it? The reason I refused to let the physician examine the wound yesterday was because it was on my arm. As a concubine to the emperor, I could not let any man other than him see my body. After I finished speaking, Emperor Jing asked, "So that is why you wouldn't let the physician see your wound yesterday, and only kept the medication?" I hesitated for a moment, then gave a nod. Although I truly had no interest in competing for his favor, I still understood certain rules and cared for them deeply. Seeing me nod, Emperor Jing suddenly felt a part of his heart soften instantly. He reached out and took my hand. Even now, you are still concerned with propriety. What if it had gotten worse? What would you have done then? Please do not worry, Your Majesty. I will be careful. I looked down at the hand of the emperor that was holding mine and couldn't help but think back on all my thoughts from yesterday. Seeing me like this, Emperor Jing paused and then asked again, "Is there nothing you wish to tell me?" Hearing his words, my eyes flickered, and I raised my head with a smile, questioning the monarch before me. "How did you happen to be on that path, Your Majesty?" Head eunuch Kang saw you on the path, and then he reported it to me. I see. If there is a chance, I must thank head eunuch Kang. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have been able to be carried back by Your Majesty. See that you remember that. You needn't worry about that. I shall reward him for it. Before long, Kang Haining arrived at the Peach Blossom residence with the imperial physician. Because the injury was on my arm, a screen was specially placed in the room. The medical attendant described my injury, and the imperial physician made his diagnosis accordingly. Once they had finished examining the wound together, "How is Su Wanrong's injury?" Answering, Your Majesty, Su Wanrong's arm wound was never light to begin with, and since it wasn't treated promptly, it has now become somewhat inflamed. Fortunately, Su Wanrong has not developed a fever. I will now treat the wound properly for Su Wanrong to avoid leaving any scars. However, it will be a bit painful for her. Your servant shall ensure no scars remain on Su Wanrong's arm, and I will also prepare medicine to help nourish her body. Go ahead and treat her wound. The medical attendant brought the medicine box to me and the emperor. She spoke respectfully. "Lady Su, I shall treat you now. It is fine. Proceed. The wound might be quite painful." Seeing how nervous the medical attendant was, I offered a reassuring smile. She opened the medicine box, then knelt beside me to treat the injury on my arm. It was indeed very painful. I gritted my teeth and forced myself not to make a sound. Watching me endure it so stoically, the emperor felt a surge of pity, seeing me bite my lips slightly, with fine beads of sweat forming on my forehead. "If it hurts, do not hesitate to cry out. I am fine. Your Majesty, please do not worry." The emperor felt an increasing sense of compassion for me. Not only that, but he even began to feel a genuine ache in his heart. The wound was finally treated. The medic wrapped bandages around my arm, layer by layer. Due to the pain, I felt as though I had just been pulled out of the water. Once the wound was bandaged, the medic gave many detailed instructions. Zisu, who was waiting nearby, nodded repeatedly and then took the medicine bottle from the medic. Everything was taken care of, and all instructions had been given. So the imperial physician and the medic withdrew. I didn't know what to say. And since the sharp pain hadn't fully subsided yet, I simply lowered my head. "Does it still hurt?" I shook my head. Deceiving the emperor is a grave offense. Looking at your pale face, how could it not hurt? Emperor Jing felt a bit helpless, yet also sympathetic. "Your servant is still in pain." "I know you are still in pain. I shall have lunch with you shortly. After you have eaten, you should get some good rest. There is no need to pay your respects to the empress for the next few days." Hearing Emperor Jing say this, "I do not wish to see you struggling even to walk back again. The Empress is magnanimous, and she will understand that you are not paying your respects due to your injury, so she will not blame you." "Yes, thank you, Your Majesty." I could only whisper my thanks, knowing full well that my body was currently quite fragile, so not having to pay respects was actually a relief. After all, skipping the morning rites meant I could enjoy a few days of relative ease, without worrying about causing any trouble for myself. The news of Emperor Jing carrying me back to Toron residence soon spread throughout the entire inner palace. Upon hearing it, Imperial Concubine Shen immediately wore a smile on her face. I imagined that the person most terrified in the palace right now must be Consort Shu of Zhaochun Palace. After all, Su Waning's injury occurred there. Hong Shu looked at her mistress and began to ask for her thoughts. "Your Highness, do you think the Emperor will punish Consort Shu for Su Waning's sake? What do you think?" This servant believes, although Lady Wanrong was injured at Zhaochun Palace, it was Princess An who caused the injury. Regardless, Consort Shu is, after all, the princess's birth mother. Even though His Majesty favors Lady Wanrong, he would not do anything to the princess over such a matter. As for Consort Shu, This servant cannot say for sure, expressing her own thoughts. Hongshu looked at her mistress and saw noble consort Shen smile slightly. Noble consort Shen then spoke. It is indeed hard to say. Whether His Majesty will punish Consort Shu depends on how Lady Wanrong reacts. I am quite looking forward to a great show in this harem. Just as noble consort Shen had expected. After Consort Shu of Jiaochun Palace heard the news, she immediately grew anxious. Seeing her like this, her attendant Louis hastily spoke to comfort her. After all, that Su Wanrong is only a Wanrong. You are Princess Anne's birth mother. If His Majesty truly asks, you can simply shift the matter onto Lady Wanrong. Besides, children can be heavy-handed at times. His Majesty certainly wouldn't have the heart to punish the princess. Louis's words put Consort Shu much more at ease. That is true. In any case, I am the princess's birth mother. Even if His Majesty dotes on Su Wanrong, he would not, for the sake of a mere Wanrong. Let me lose face. Seeing Consort Shu's expression soften significantly. My lady, if you are worried, why not send some gifts to Lady Wanrong? Send her gifts. My lady, why are you still holding a grudge against her at a time like this? Aren't you afraid of displeasing His Majesty? We aren't giving these things away for nothing. We will have to say something when we deliver them, won't we? After listening to her, Consort Shu pondered it carefully. A smile appeared on her face. You really are quick-witted. In that case, I will leave this matter to you. After acknowledging the order, Louis stepped back and withdrew, while Consort Shu and Louis were plotting against me. Elsewhere, Emperor Jing had just finished his meal with me and left. Before leaving, he stared at the injury on my arm for a long time before speaking. Rest well. I will come to see you again. Watching Emperor Jing depart, a look of weariness appeared on my face, helped me settle into bed. Before long, I drifted off to sleep. Zisu quietly exited the inner chamber. Just as she reached the doorway, she saw Xiao Fuzi coming to greet her. Sister Zisu, people from Jiaochun Palace are here. Upon hearing Jiaochun Palace, Zisu could not help but frown, though she was unhappy about it. Zisu still smoothed her brow and went out to the gate of Toran residence to meet them. Entering the courtyard of Toran residence, Louis smiled and greeted Zisu. Miss Zisu, is Lady Su in? Oh, it is you, Louis. What a coincidence. Our lady just finished lunch with the Emperor, and she has already retired for a rest. Since Lady Su is resting, then I won't disturb her. Our consort is worried about Lady Su's injuries, so she specially had me bring over some high-quality ointment. Louis's words made Zisu feel even more displeased. They say a weasel paying respects to a chicken is up to no good. My lady and Zieten both sustained their injuries at Jiaochun Palace, and now people from Jiaochun Palace are bringing medicinal ointment instead. Who knows what their true intentions are? We have plenty of ointment here at Toran residence. The Emperor was just here, has already ordered that the finest healing ointment be prepared for our mistress. Louis naturally understood what Zisu meant. She said with a smile, bringing up Princess and as an excuse. In any case, this is our consort's sincere gesture. Our consort feels quite guilty about Mistress Su being injured, but the princess is still just a child after all, and she can be a bit temperamental at times. When children act out, they often don't know how to hold back. Our consort has already scolded Princess Anne, so I hope Mistress Su will not hold it against her. Louis's words made Zisu's expression darken completely. If it weren't for her own mistress's sake, she would have loved to show Louis the door. It was no wonder Zisu was so angry. What Louis said essentially shifted all the blame onto Princess Anne. Princess Anne is only a 5-year-old child and is the Emperor's eldest daughter besides. Even if she were truly in the wrong, the Emperor would certainly never have the heart to punish her. Why? Could it be that you are dissatisfied with Consort Shu and Princess Anne? Lady Louis, what are you saying? Didn't you say Consort Shu sent you here to deliver the ointment? Since our mistress is currently sleeping, you can just hand the ointment to me. Even if she were truly dissatisfied, Zisu would never voice it. Hearing Zisu say this, Louis handed the ointment she had brought to Zisu now that the gift had been delivered and the message conveyed. There was no need for her to stay any longer. She turned and left Toran Pavilion. Once Louis had walked far away, Zisu couldn't help but spit in disgust. Looking at the ointment in her hand, she felt like throwing it away, but she worried her mistress might blame her after waking up. Clutching the ointment, Zisu thought for a moment and ultimately brought it back into the room to place on the table. By the time I woke up, it was already evening. I heard someone came from Jiaochun Palace and even brought some ointment. A smile immediately appeared on my face. Zisu spoke up with indignation. My lady, Consort Shu has gone too far. You were injured so badly, yet she still sent someone to speak like that. When the imperial physician comes to change your dressing tomorrow, let her take a look at the ointment. If it is any good, let Zieten use it instead. But I did not think that because of me, the Emperor would punish Princess Anne or Consort Shu. Seeing that her mistress seemed not to care at all, Zisu wanted to say something more, but upon seeing the expression on my face, she had to swallow her words. Zisu was, after all, the one who followed me into the palace, so I knew very well what she wanted to say. I had no choice but to smile and say, changing the subject. Has dinner been sent over yet? I am hungry. Wait a moment, my lady. I will go and check. Zisu curtsied and turned to leave the inner chamber. I will keep this grudge in mind whenever I have the chance. I will surely find a way to pay it back. Your Majesty, will you be selecting a consort for the evening? After the evening meal, the chief eunuch of the Imperial Bedchamber Department came to the Longqian Palace. Go to Toran residence. The official from the Imperial Bedchamber Department bowed and withdrew. Eunuch Kang, standing beside Emperor Jing, was full of surprise. He naturally knew which concubine lived at Toran residence, since he himself had gone to the Imperial Medical Bureau to summon a physician that very day. Your Majesty, Lady Su's injuries. He originally intended to say that Lady Su's injuries were not suitable for attending the Emperor, but when he saw Emperor Jing look up at him, he immediately fell silent. I didn't expect the Emperor to choose me tonight. Given my current condition, I'm hardly in a state to serve, but the Emperor has already made his choice. As a consort, what can I possibly say? I could only order the necessary preparations and then get myself ready. Zisu came in from outside, and seeing that I was already prepared, she smiled and said, "My lady, it will be the 15th soon. The moon outside is so bright. Why don't we go out and take a look, just like last time?" I didn't try too hard to dress up. I always felt that since it is for attending the Emperor, there is no need to make it overly elaborate. It is not as if, after serving him, I'd have to get up and wash all over again. I took Zisu and Ziyuan out of the room and looked up at the sky. The weather has been fine these past few days, so there are countless stars in the sky right now. Although it is not quite the 15th yet, the moon is already very round, pouring its light down. Shining upon Toran residence. Is Zaitan asleep? Zaitan has already taken her medicine and has fallen asleep. Please don't worry. It was ultimately me who implicated her. I sighed and looked up again. Regarding the injuries Zaitan sustained, I truly felt guilty in my heart. My lady, please don't say such things. If Zaitan knew you were blaming yourself for her, she would certainly feel terrible. If I weren't a person trapped in this harem, a breeze blew by, and although it is not yet a summer night, the night air was exceptionally cool. When the Emperor arrived at Toran residence, this was what he saw. Me, under the moonlight. My dear consort, you are injured. Why are you not resting properly in your room? Since you are injured, there is no need for such formalities. The night wind is cool. Let's go inside. My fluster was not lost on Emperor Jing. In fact, from the moment I started blaming myself, he had already stepped into Toran residence, so he had heard everything I said. Emperor Jing kept those feelings to himself as he held me and walked into the room, where we sat down on the daybed. Are you feeling any discomfort? Manny, thanks for your concern, Your Majesty. Your servant is fine now. If you feel unwell, have someone summon a physician. Do not try to endure it. Do you understand? Emperor Jing reached out and touched my forehead. I was indeed not running a fever. Only then did he seem at ease. I gave a soft reply, thinking of how my name tablet had been chosen tonight, and then thinking of the injury on my arm. I couldn't help but feel a little nervous, seeming to notice my thoughts. You are injured. Yet I chose you tonight. I was simply worried about you, so I wanted to come and keep you company. Do not be afraid. As he said this, a wave of warmth spread through my heart. Noticing the book on the daybed, Emperor Jing picked it up. It was a travelogue. He flipped through a few pages and discovered that it even contained annotations. Answering Your Majesty, this is just something I use to pass the time. Seeing Emperor Jing reading the book with my notes in it, I couldn't help but blush. Your handwriting is quite beautiful. If you do not mind, I would like to read it as well. Because of the annotations, Emperor Jing flipped through a few more pages. I certainly do not mind. If Your Majesty wishes to read it, then please take it, although I hadn't finished reading it yet. If the Emperor wants to see it, I naturally would not argue with him. Upon hearing my reply, Emperor Jing nodded, following the Emperor's gaze. I tried to pull my hand back, but the Emperor held it fast. It is getting late, let us rest. That night, I slept unexpectedly well. When I awoke, the day had already dawned. The Emperor was by my side, breathing steadily. Recalling how the last 2 times I had woken up later than he did, I carefully lifted myself up, intending to rise and wait for him to wake. Did I not excuse you from your morning greetings? Why are you awake so early? The Emperor's voice suddenly came. My body stiffened as I turned to look at him. Did I wake you, Your Majesty? After all, only a moment ago he seemed to be in a deep sleep, but in just the blink of an eye, he had already woken up. I naturally assumed I had disturbed him. I have already sent word to the Empress. Rest easy and continue sleeping. With that, he reached out and pulled me into his arms. The Emperor reached out to stroke my hair, then closed his eyes once more. Since the Emperor insisted, I had no choice but to nestle quietly in his arms. After lying there for a while longer, the Emperor finally called for someone to come and serve us. I originally intended to get up, but the Emperor reached out and held me down. You have injuries. There is no need to get up. Sleep a little longer. The Emperor said so. I hesitated for a moment, but eventually nodded. In truth, I was still sleepy, especially after lying in the Emperor's arms for a while, so I felt increasingly drowsy. Seeing me nod, the corners of the Emperor's lips curled into a smile. The Emperor excused me from my morning greetings and spent last night at the Taran residence again. That consort, Su, really has a way about her. Even while injured, she manages to get the Emperor to come to her palace. Come to think of it, Your Highness the Empress, didn't you previously excuse Consort Su from her morning greetings? But she insisted on coming anyway. Now that the Emperor has exempted her from the morning greetings, why is she no longer insisting on coming? Could it be that she was just putting on a show for someone before? Su Wanrong understands the rules. Since she is injured, it is only right for the Emperor to visit her. Come to think of it, I heard that Su Wanrong's injury occurred at your Jiaochun palace. How exactly did that happen? The Empress, sitting above, spoke up. She naturally knew how I was injured. Asking like this was merely to hear how Consort Shu would argue her case. Hearing the Empress's question, Consort Shu could not help but be at a loss for words. But she could not leave the Empress's question unanswered. She hesitated for a moment, then began to speak. That day, I happened to run into Su Wanrong, so I invited her to my palace as a guest, princess, and happened to be there as well. Children are naturally playful, and while playing with Su Wanrong, she accidentally injured her. As it happened, the maid accompanying Su Wanrong also offended Princess, and in the process, which is why I punished Su Wanrong's maid. However, I also reprimanded Princess Anne. Noble consort, why are you laughing? What can't I laugh if I want to, Consort Shu? I wouldn't dare. Noble Consort Shen's rank was higher than Consort Shu's after all. Plus, she was more favored than Consort Shu. Naturally, she did not dare to cross Noble Consort Shen. Princess Anne is the Emperor's eldest daughter. Consort Shu, that you are able to personally raise Princess Anne is your good fortune. You must cherish it well. The Empress said this. Consort Shu quickly stood up, and with a fearful look, bowed to the Empress. Thank you for your guidance, Your Majesty. I will keep it in mind. The Empress nodded and waved her hand, dismissing the morning greetings. The concubines all stood up, and after paying their respects, they all withdrew. After the morning court session, Emperor Jing went to the imperial study. He personally selected a few books and handed them to head eunuch Kang. Head eunuch Kang, take some people and deliver these books to Lady Jieyu Su. Only then did he realize who Emperor Jing was referring to. What? Is the overbearing emperor falling in love with me? Emperor Jing shot a glance at head eunuch Kang. Although he only said 2 words, it made head eunuch Kang quickly lower his head. This servant just thinks Lady Jieyu is truly fortunate to be so favored by your majesty. Hurry and send the books over. Mistress, what is the matter? You are now a Lady Jieyu. You should be happy. I am happy, of course. I just sighed. I did not say what was on my mind. Zisu thought for a moment and started to persuade her mistress not to worry too much. A promotion in rank is always a good thing. I know. I nodded. I took a deep breath and looked up at Zisu. Go and call Xiao Fuzi in. Zisu turned and left the room. Before long, she returned to the room with Xiao Fuzi. Xiao Fuzi asked, respectfully, Mistress, what orders do you have for this servant? Since Zaitan is still recovering from her injuries, the affairs of Toran residence will be managed by you and Zisu for the time being, even though I have been promoted. There are many others in this palace with higher ranks. Remember to keep the servants in our Taran residence in line. Tell them all to mind their manners. Do not cause trouble in my name. If anyone does so, I will certainly not go easy on them. I will have them dismissed immediately. Rest assured, mistress, we understand. After I finished speaking, Xiao Fuzi and Zisu spoke in unison. I nodded and waved my hand. My mind is still a bit of a mess. I need to get things straightened out. News of my promotion spread quickly through the harem. Upon hearing it, the Empress couldn't help but feel a bit surprised. But once she gave it some thought, she didn't really seem to mind it much. Your Majesty, this promotion of Lady Su, is it not happening a bit too fast? Yingluo frowned slightly, clearly feeling quite concerned. It is indeed quite fast, and she was promoted 3 ranks at once. Actually, when it comes to this matter, Consort Shu is the one who pushed for it behind the scenes. If it weren't for her, Lady Su wouldn't have been promoted so quickly, since she was injured by Princess Anne. Out of consideration for the princess, the Emperor didn't want to embarrass Consort Shu too much, so he simply raised Lady Su's rank. This serves as a warning to her. Whether Consort Shu realizes this or not is her own affair. If she doesn't learn and continues to target Lady Su repeatedly, the Empress left the rest unsaid, but Yingluo had already understood the meaning. If there is another time, I fear Consort Shu's position won't be safe. Even if she manages to keep her rank, Lady Su will be promoted again. Go and select a few items to send to Taran Pavilion. Since she has been promoted, as the Empress, I must send some tokens of favor. In Yichun Palace, Hongshu glanced at Consort Shen, who was on the chaise longue, and spoke with great caution. Your ladyship, the Empress has already sent gifts over. Since the Empress has sent gifts, you should prepare some to send as well. Consort Shen raised an eyebrow, her face revealing no emotion. Do you think I would be angry? She is just a lady. There is nothing to be angry about. Besides, the Emperor is merely trying to appease her. If you're going to blame anyone, blame that brainless Consort Shu. It only makes things easier for Lady Su. Consort, Shen glanced toward Hongshu. A cold smirk played on her lips. Enough. Go and deliver the gifts yourself. What a wretched woman. Heaven knows what kind of vixen's tricks she used to make His Majesty show her such favor. Seeing Consort Shu so enraged, La Yi quickly tried to appease her. Your ladyship, please calm your anger. Even if Lady Su is rising quickly, she is only a 5th rank consort, and still under your thumb, your ladyship. Your ladyship, as things stand now, Lady Su is enjoying the Emperor's favor. We should avoid clashing with her for the time being. After all, you are the Emperor's Consort Shu, and you are raising Princess Anne. You are 100 times better than that, Lady Su. Hearing La Yi finish, the rage on Consort Shu's face only intensified. She is nothing but a consort. Does this palace mean I have to kneel to her now? Your ladyship, this is not the time to be stubborn. Think about it. Lady Su's injuries are quite serious. If she truly complains to His Majesty, you will surely face some consequences. Yet, His Majesty did not punish you, and instead promoted Lady Su's rank. This shows that His Majesty still cares about you. After hearing Lu Yi's words, Consort Shu slowly calmed down. She thought it over carefully, and her expression could not help but change. Seeing the shift in Consort Shu's face, Li spoke up once more, continuing her analysis. For the consort, His Majesty was mindful of your reputation. Your ladyship, you should naturally exercise some restraint, lest you displease him. At any rate, the princess is with you. Once some time has passed, and His Majesty has forgotten about this, you can have the princess appear before him again. Do you really think the Emperor won't come to Jiaochun Palace? Besides, the harem is full of beauties. Many new women have entered with the recent selection, even if Lady Su is favored now. But how long can that last? Once she falls out of favor, won't she be at your mercy then, my lady? You make a fair point. I suppose I was the one being muddled. A smile appeared on Consort Shu's face. She had completely calmed down. Seeing the smile on Consort Shu's face, La Yi turned her gaze toward the palace maids in the room. She withdrew the smile from her own face. Her words were filled with a stern warning. Aren't you going to clean up this mess on the floor? If anyone dares to breathe a word about what happened today, see if I don't rip your mouth apart. After La Yi spoke, the palace maids hurriedly acknowledged the order and cleared away the debris on the floor. La Yi withdrew her gaze and looked back at Consort Shu, her face wearing its usual smile. Consort Shu beckoned to Li Yi, removed the ruby earrings from her ears, and pressed them into Li Yi's hand. You have been with me since I entered the palace, and you are always so thoughtful on my behalf. Rest assured, I will never treat you unfairly. Many thanks for your reward, my lady. Please rest easy, my lady, as long as it is for your sake. This servant is willing to do anything after accepting the reward. Li knelt on the ground, bowed to express her gratitude to Consort Shu, and simultaneously pledged her loyalty. My lady, noble Lady Qi is here. I quickly rose and went out to greet her. Seeing noble Lady Qi walking toward me with the support of a maid, I quickened my pace, arrived at noble Lady Qi's side, and reached out to support her other arm. Sister Qi, you are with child. You only need to send word for me to come to you. Why come all this way yourself? I heard that your rank has been elevated and that you were promoted 3 levels at once. I am truly happy for you in my heart, so I came to see you in person. Noble lady, Qi said with a smile, walking into the room with me. Even if you are happy, you must still look after the baby, sister. Besides, our quarters are quite far apart. Coming all this way to see me, sister, truly makes me feel uneasy. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. I helped noble Lady Qi to the cushioned bench. Before I could say anything, I heard the voice of Xiao Fuzi outside. My lady, Auntie Hongshu from Yichun Palace is here. Upon hearing it was Yichun Palace, a look of understanding flashed in my eyes. Now that I had been promoted, even the Empress had sent gifts over, so it is only natural that noble Consort Shen would send some as well. Let her in. I looked at noble Lady Qi with an apologetic gaze. Then, I took a few steps forward, watching as Hongshu led her attendants into the room. Greetings to you, Lady Su. Congratulations on your promotion, my lady. By order of Her Imperial Grace, the noble consort, I have brought these gifts for you, my lady, to express her best wishes to you. Please rise, Auntie Hongshu. Please thank noble consort Shen for me. I have finished speaking. Hongshu responded with a smile, and immediately cast her gaze toward noble Lady Qi. I didn't notice you earlier, noble Lady Qi, and didn't expect her to be here as well. Greetings to you, noble Lady Qi. Please do not take offense, noble Lady Qi. Sitting upon the soft divan, noble Lady Qi gazed toward Hongshu. She did not immediately bid Hongshu to rise, but instead stared at her for a long moment, before finally speaking. However, these words were meant for me. Younger sister Su, I heard you were injured, and I wanted to come see you. But as you know, my own health is quite fragile. I thought I would take this opportunity while coming to congratulate you and bring along both the medicinal salves and these gifts for you. Thank you, noble Lady Qi. Zissou then stepped forward. She took the gifts and medicinal supplies from the maid's hands. Oh, look at my memory. Aunt Hongxiu, please get up. Ever since I became pregnant, my memory has been getting worse and worse. Aunt Hongxiu, you won't blame me, will you? Having been by Consort, Shen's side for so long. When had Hongxiu ever been treated like this? How would this servant dare to blame you, noble Lady Qi? Since the items have been delivered, I shall take my leave, as I must return to report to the noble consort. This servant respectfully withdraws. After Hongxiu left, I looked at noble Lady Qi with a smile. Sister Qi, was that really necessary? She is, after all, a person by Consort Shen's side. Even so, she is nothing more than a servant. How could she dare speak to you like that? Exactly, she is a servant. To speak in such a way, she must have been instructed by someone. I must thank you, sister, for standing up for me. Noble Lady Qi spoke with a smile. As long as you don't blame me for overstepping, sister.